This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to be speaking with Jessica Lee Gagné about Severance. How are you today?
I'm good. Very excited to be here.
Absolutely, me too. Severance is such an astonishing show, and I think for people who aren't familiar with your work, you've been behind the camera as cinematographer for the show since the beginning, and you made your directorial debut with this really incredible seventh episode that delves into the backstory of Gemma and Mark.
Mhm.
Did you know that you were going to direct, or when did you know you were going to direct? I guess that's my first question.
Well, it's a complicated question because I didn't really want to direct at first. I was just considering if I wanted to do the season two of a show. You know, as a cinematographer, you kind of want to always reinvent. You always want to do new things, right? And like doing a second season, it's not always the most tempting thing. And people wanted me to do it again, and we're like, well, what if you direct this time? And at first, I was like, no. And then I thought about it and I read the synopsis of the episode 7, and I really felt like I needed to do this one specifically. So that's what made me actually come back for season 2.
So, what goes into directing that you knew, and what really surprised you?
I think that I had really blocked it out mentally for a long time. It was kind of an unconscious desire that I had, which was the main reason why I went into film school, was to direct one day, and I pretty much forgot about it for 15 years. And when I kind of mustered up the courage to do it, I realized that it was more natural than I thought it was going to be. And I realized that those 15 years of cinematography were what were going to make me the type of director that I could be. So I kind of think that in a way I got a soft landing because I was so well surrounded, and also being surrounded by the Severance team, everyone who makes that show, and them encouraging me to do this made it a lot easier than I thought it could be. But I had to show up on another level. Like I think when you direct, you have to be quite vulnerable. And for me, episode 7, I really kind of ran with it, and I really tried to make it my own. Um, and I took a lot of risks, but it's okay. I think most of it paid off, so it's good.
I think it definitely did. I'm curious though, how much was there in the script, and where you feel you came in, and what were some of those risks that you mentioned?
Well, I was lucky to be a part of this show before the script was written. So, and that's not the case for every television director out there. It was quite a luxury just because I was always there, as the cinematographer. I'm there from day one, and I get to, I'm creating with Ben. We're doing all these other things. And the writer, Mark Friedman, who wrote this episode, really worked with me. We really collaborated. And I think that that's why this episode is kind of singular in the series this season. It's kind of its own thing, and it could be its own thing because Severance is what it is. It pulls its strength from the show. But yeah, all of those like very technical sequences and how some of the scenes were put together, that's where I really got to like shine, and help out in the writing. So it was a really lovely process.
I feel like it's a show where you really don't want to tell audiences too much. You want to give them just a little bit of tease. But this episode, you get so much information, but you're still never exactly sure when something like time is not your friend here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many challenges within this story. Just from having to make people love Gemma as much as we love Helly as a character, that was something that scared me a lot. And then going into this episode knowing, well, I don't have all the things that everyone loves about Severance, in it. So I actually got kind of freaked out a little bit by that at one point. But um, being able to create this whole new world and this past life of theirs was something that came from the heart for me. Definitely drew on some personal experiences as well. So it made it easier to tell these stories because I felt like I was telling a real story. Especially also like being a woman who's like put her career first for a very long time. I felt like I could connect with Gemma, like there was a part of me in that. And that made it a little bit easier. But in terms of the secrets within the show and what you can tell and what you can't tell, what actually helped me is that I couldn't tell much. Like I only had 14 or 13 scenes of flashbacks to tell this entire story. So no matter what, there was going to be things in the dark. And then, as these episodes are being written, you're kind of having to support the future episodes coming up and make sure that, 7 goes and talks about the past, but it's also adding the weight and intensity to the season that it needs for the finale, and being considerate of all these things. And sometimes you have you have to work with things that you maybe necessarily weren't as interested in, but you know how much power they hold within the bigger story. So it kind of finds itself. I feel like there's a limited amount of time on screen to tell this story, so that limited what we could tell and what we couldn't tell. But as a group, you know, as a collective, like the people who make the show, we're all trying to like hide secrets and put Easter eggs in. You know, every department is trying to like put a little something here and there, and there's so much thought that goes into everything.
I think this is, I always ask the question, what are people watching when I do an interview and everybody's like, Severance. Do you feel, are you engaging a lot with the internet and the world watching this show?
Ah, no, because like for me, it was very scary to direct. Like I mentioned, you know, it really wasn't something that came naturally in terms of the intention of doing it. So when you know, like before it came out, I was sure that there was going to be a lot of people who weren't going to like it and a lot of people who were going to like it. I thought it was going to be like a 50-50 camp thing and the people, some people were just not going to appreciate it. And I think that's because that's how I view myself, honestly. But that scared me quite a bit and I've kind of stayed away from it because it scares me too much to read anything.
If it helps, I think that even if some people had mixed reactions overall to the season, this was like the highlight that it's just because I also think people really do crave answers. And the fact that this gives you so much and really tells an almost independent story, right? This is a love story that doesn't need to be related to the world of Severance in some ways. I think it's rare to find an episode like that, especially on a show like this. And so that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I think that Severance is such a unique world that I'm really grateful I got to help create the aesthetic of it, the tone, the feel, and you know, like the tone of the performances as well is so singular, and it's kind of created in a bit of a vacuum, and it has like a very acute style, if I can say that. Very precise. You know, you'll say like, oh, that's very like Severance. And then having to do a world that was outside of that was scary, but at the same time, kind of a relief. And you really get to see in Seven the world before this person decided to shut off a big part of himself. You know, he decided not to feel, not to put himself in danger. And ironically, like those things always catch up to you in life, right? And you can see it like at the end of episode 10, it all comes running back to him. But that to me is like one of the most interesting things about having the opportunity to work on Seven is I got to explore the world before he made that big decision.
And as someone who's been a big fan of Deechin Lachman's for a long time, especially with Dollhouse, it's great to get to see her have such an incredible showcase. What was it like working so directly with her for this episode?
I couldn't really imagine like a better match for me, you know, coming in, not really. I had to discover how to really work with actors because for a long time I was kind of hiding a little bit. I mean, I was definitely hiding behind the camera and hiding away and leaving them their space, and I never really wanted to get too involved. And I realized why now, but working with her, she made it so easy for me, and she was so open and explorative in her process, so we were able to, you know, really work things out together and kind of create these storylines together. And I never felt any kind of resistance. There was never anything like challenging me in a negative way. So for me, it she opened the door to me being vulnerable and accessing like feeling these emotions with her and through her. So I'm really grateful for that. And I just think it was like it's so fun for her to, you know, who's been captive in this Miss Casey role for like the whole season now gets to explore all of these sides. And she's the type of actress who just goes for it, you know, and tries things and nothing really phases her. And also she's super technical. So for this kind of work, it was great and really useful. I think like that well-roundedness really helped me out.
Does this make you want to direct again?
Oh, 100%. I'm already on that journey, working out my first feature now. So yeah, we're all in now.
Is there anything you can preview about that first feature, even just genre-wise, or how close it is to Severance?
Oh, it's so not close at all to Severance, but it's very personal to me. It's an erotic thriller, very kind of 90s erotic thriller-esque. Those movies that, you know, we love to watch in the theaters or to even rent at the video store. But I'm kind of taking like a feminist or feminine approach on it. I'm reappropriating the genre.
Great. And you have obviously we know Severance is nowhere near done. Season three was announced like the second season two ended. Are you coming back? Do you feel like you've done what you want to do?
You know what? I don't know. I can't really like everyone always asks me that, but I have to just let the universe decide. We're gonna see what happens there. You know, Severance is it's a wild beast. You never know when it's coming and how long it's gonna take.
You're not leaving cinematography behind.
I am like
You
I
are.
yeah, I'm transitioning, you know. I feel like I can't wait to work with cinematographers. I feel like every project has the perfect cinematographer for it. And I think that, you know, on my journey in becoming a director, I think I'll be a better director if I work with another cinematographer. I think I'll have a lot to learn. Um, and I have so much respect for the craft. It's made me who I am today. And I think it's informing the type of director that I'm going to be. Um, but I want to work with people who are better than me as cinematographers, and there's so many out there that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would die to work with this person. So I'm just excited about the possibility of that.
Well, I mentioned that I like to ask people, what are you watching on TV? What's really impressing you? And I'm curious, what have you seen, especially that's visually impressed you, just how it's shot?
Oh, well, I just watched The Studio. And I've been a fan of Adam Newport Barra for a long time. I wish I could have got him to work on Severance. So the way that like the Oner episode is insane. Like props to them for that. It really is impressive. Like just the texture, the quality of everything, the performances. It's a gem of a show, and I'm really glad it was made.
Beautiful. Well, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your work on Severance, and I'm very excited to see you go in this new direction. Wishing you plenty of luck with that.
Thank you.